Hello, this is Beth Finch, Lunder Curator of American Art at the Colby Museum and Interim Director of the Lunder Institute. It is a pleasure to introduce this museum moment, which includes reflections on the exhibition The Sea in a Jug, the Welch collection of Islamic and later Indian art. In 2019, I had the pleasure of being part of the group that organized this project. It included Dr. Marta Ameri, Assistant Professor of Art, my museum colleague Qianni Zhu, Mirken Fellow in Museum Practice, and the Colby Students Alaleh Naderi and Whitney White. Through her course, Art of the Book in the Islamic World, Dr. Ameri led the way and helped us to define the themes you will now hear about in this program, which features works acquired by the U.S. curator, scholar, and collector Stuart Cary Welch, with additional loans generously provided by the Harvard Art Museums, where Welch worked for more than 4 decades. The exhibition also features a few paintings from the Colby Museum's collection. We are extraordinarily grateful for the loans that made this exhibition possible and that have supported a new initiative dedicated to the study of Islamic art at Colby College. Islamic art designates secular and religious art made by both Muslims and non-Muslims living within territories defined or influenced by Islam. The paintings, drawings, sculptures, and ornamental objects included in this exhibition date from the 13th to the 20th century and were made in regions now known as Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, and India. Before we launch into the exhibition's themes, here are a few words on the project's title, which Alaleh Naderi gave to this project.
Hi, this is Alaleh Naderi, Colby class of 2021. The Sea in a Jug, Bahr dar Kuze, is a part of a poem in Masnavi, the great multi-volume work by the 13th century Persian poet Maulana, better known as Rumi. Rumi says, "If you pour the sea into a jug, how much will it contain? A day's portion." The meaning of the phrase is better explained by the next line of the poem. The greedy eye, like the jug, is never filled. Until content, the oyster holds no pearl. What Rumi is saying is that with the oyster's contentment, with a drop of the sea, a pearl can be formed inside. Reading the Masnavi is always a spiritual experience, and this literary piece speaks of the cultural, intellectual, and spiritual background of the works in this exhibition. In the context of this exhibition of art from the Islamic world, the detailed pieces from calligraphy to miniature to architecture are not only the visual companions of the spiritual thoughts, but also an embodiment of the soul. They are a reflection of, only some of, the tremendous effort from the rulers to the artists, to the collectors, to the art historians, and so on. By representing the body of that soul, they engrave life into stories, poems, history, and our minds. And there is a whole sea of them, and a few cups full of them here in the museum. Some of the pieces in the exhibition are small, some are even playing card sized. This size, however modest, is a meticulous representation of human experience. With the title, I wanted to impact the audience's, your relationship with this exhibition by giving something to ask yourself about. I wanted you to wonder, what is the potential sea of experience that the artists capture and pour into a jug that you see?
Hello, this is Whitney White, Colby College class of 2021, and I will be speaking about the theme of court life. Throughout the Islamic world, royal courts served as significant centers of artistic production. The Kitabkhana, or palace workshop, was filled with artists handpicked by local rulers. These institutions were largely responsible for the proliferation of different artistic styles across the Islamic world, as rulers sought to establish their prestige and cultural credentials by populating their Kitabkhana with the best artists from various schools. The artists of the Kitabkhana were commissioned to produce a wide range of works, including depictions of the rulers themselves. Though figural imagery was rarely found in religious works, scenes of court life were common throughout the Islamic world. Portraits and enthronement scenes offer a glimpse into life in the court by depicting the strict hierarchies and organization that was characteristic of these spaces. Another common motif, referred to as the princely cycle, offers a more idealized vision of the court. These images of entertainment, leisure, and decadence were meant to highlight the wealth and power of the ruler. The portrait of Raujagat Singh of Kota in his garden epitomizes the motif of the princely cycle. Raujagat Singh, the second ruler of the new kingdom of Kota in India, commissioned this work by a prominent artist referred to as the Hada master. While the Rajput ruler spent most of his reign involved in military campaigns, this painting presents him in a rare moment of respite. Seated on a throne against a lush backdrop, he is the image of divinity on earth, enjoying the excesses of kingship. Dressed in fine garments and jewels, he is attended on by 3 women offering him fruit and wine. The exuberant yet symmetrical flowers and fountains further add to the opulence and harmony of the scene, aligning with the Islamic tradition of using gardens to construct a vision of paradise.
Hello, this is Beth Finch again, and I will be speaking about the theme of the natural world. All living beings roaming the earth and winged birds soaring in the sky are communities like yourselves. The Quran, 638. Stretching from the Middle East and North Africa to Central Asia and parts of South and Southeast Asia, Islamic culture has flourished in a great variety of terrains and climates. Stylized plant motifs and floral patterns appear on the earliest surviving Islamic objects and architectural adornments. Nature-inspired decoration, covered ceramic tiles, marble mosaics, woven textiles, and ornaments made from precious metals and stones. Descriptions of paradise found in the Quran inform painted depictions of magnificent gardens, while verdant forests and arid plains provide scenic backdrops for courtly demonstrations of hunting prowess. As with human imagery, animal subject matter is mostly absent from religious architecture in the Islamic world, but representations of wild and domestic animals abound in paintings and objects made for secular enjoyment. Sculptures of lions, horses, and elephants, naturalistic paintings of paradise, and exquisite studies of flora and fauna distinguish the art of the Mughal Empire, which began in 1526 CE and eventually encompassed much of South Asia. Active in the late 16th and early 17th centuries, Mansur is considered the greatest Mughal painter of animals. This delicate portrayal of a northern goshawk, accurately capturing the majestic raptor's pale gray wings, finely striped belly, and fierce gaze, justifies the attribution to Mansur's hand. An iconic bird of the northern conifer forests, the northern goshawk is one of the only hawk species native to both Eurasia and North America. Its scientific name, Accipiter gentilis, derives from the Latin and evokes the traditional association of this prized bird of prey with aristocratic sport of falconry. The goshawks in northern Asia have white or very light gray wings, as we see here. Their counterparts in North America, including Maine, are darker in color. This is a singular representation of a bird, almost like a portrait, but in paintings that depict myths, multiple animals could appear in a single composition, dramatically combining realism and fantasy in powerful ways, as we'll hear next.
Hey, this is Alaleh again, and I will be speaking about the theme of myth. Myth plays a central role in storytelling about the past. Aspects of religion and legend combined in origin stories. In the Islamic world, such stories allowed for the formation and dissemination of a particular version of history. When a new dynasty rose to power, local chronicles were often revised and reinterpreted. For instance, after the descendants of Genghis Khan successfully invaded Persia from Mongolia in the 13th century, they wove Mongol rulers into native myths in order to justify their rule over conquered lands. Myth, much like history, is written by the winners. Court poets who thought and wrote deeply about life, human emotion, and nature retold these myths in epic poems, alive with metaphor and imagery. As the form became increasingly beloved and integrated into the culture, these compositions became the essential language of the great manuscripts and illustrations. The Iranian Shahnameh, Book of Kings, is among the many epics that tell the stories of prehistoric wars, dynasties, and romances, with a battle between good and evil as the general plot. In the war waged by Qumars, the first mythical Persian king, Hushang, grandson of Qumars, leads an army of fairies, lions, leopards, tigers, and birds to avenge his father's death at the hands of the Black Demon. Qumars, after seeing the death of Dev, realizes that justice has been served and leaves the kingdom at the hands of his grandson. By overpowering the demons and establishing a new order, the kings of Iran solidified their dynastic legitimacy. This ever-present mythological world, expressed in poetic form and later illustrated, was and continues to be fundamental to a tradition that allows for the imaginative articulation and assertion of a communal history and identity.
This is Qianni Zhu, Mirken Fellow in Museum Practice here at Colby. I'll be speaking about calligraphy. Because the Quran in Arabic is viewed as a literal transcription of God's words, the script carries significant weight in religious contexts. This defining belief has inspired unparalleled explorations of written expression and calligraphic ornamentation in Islamic culture. Content worthy of calligraphy includes quotations from religious texts, poems, words of praise for rulers, and aphorisms. While Arabic is the language of the Quran, and thus the language most commonly associated with Islamic calligraphy, Persian and Turkish were also written under the Arabic script. By the 11th century, most learned persons were conversant in all three, and Persian had become one of the common languages of the Islamic world. Its role as an important carrier of elite culture is documented by the Persian poetry exhibit in this work. Bearing an inscription describing the piety of Muhammad's grandsons, calligraphic plaque showcases the exquisite workmanship of both the calligrapher and the steelworker. To produce this work, a master scribe copied the outline of the inscription in pencil, ink, or charcoal on paper, then transferred it to the steel plate with a stencil or pounce. Pouncing is a technique in which the artist adds pinpricks to the outline of the image and then pounces it with a permeable fabric bag holding loose chalk or pigment to transfer the design. In this work, the metalworker, likely a skilled swordsmith trained in cutting and forging pattern-welded steel, captures the fluidity of the scribe's hand. The fine floral motif of concentric spiraling scrolls that ties the design and text together is a prominent feature of Persian court art from the 15th and the 16th centuries.
Hello, I'm Marta Ameri, Assistant Professor of Art History here at Colby College, and I will be speaking briefly about process and practice in the See in the Jug exhibit. As an artist himself, Stuart Cary Welch had an enduring fascination with the processes by which the artworks that he collected were made. With this in mind, the exhibition includes a number of artworks that give us a glimpse into the artistic practice of painters working in miniature techniques. Persian and miniature painting is characterized by highly standardized images of men and women of the court. Artists would train for hours to perfect their depictions of these formulaic characters. Sketches, like the study of female heads seen here, highlight the role of practice and repetition in the training of a miniature painter. From the bare profiles of women's heads seen running in a line through the center of the page, to the fully articulated figures with large eyes, a prominent nose, and elaborate hairstyle in the lower left-hand quadrant. Once the artist had mastered the basics of a figure, he could then experiment with placing that figure in different positions and combining it with other characters. In the 4 views of a baby elephant at play, for example, the artist experiments with the 2 lower views of the elephant. Both representations show the pachyderm leading its head downwards to the ground, while its tail and hind legs are pointing upwards. A close examination, however, shows the artist negotiating the relationship between the elephant's trunk and its front right leg. While the view on the left shows the elephant with its leg raised and its trunk placed in front of it, the figure on the right has its front leg solidly anchored on the ground, with the trunk wrapping around it from behind. Looking more closely at the piece, it is clear that the painted page with the 4 views has been pasted onto a second sheet of paper, where an artist, possibly a different one, has continued to experiment with strategies for showing an elephant in motion. This practice of constant repetition, paired with the need to economize on paper, can be seen clearly on this page with a sketch of a man milking a water buffalo. Though this scene is the most clearly fleshed out and dominates the page, it is surrounded by endless figures at various scales and orientations that fully enliven both sides of the paper. While the front side, or recto, is populated primarily by large figures of water buffalo paired with smaller figures of a dancing girl, an emaciated buffalo, and a crocodile seemingly peeking out of the water, the back side, or verso, is dominated by large figures of bearded and clean-shaven men. 2 large-scale male figures who appear to be in conversation are visible on both sides, and the tiny pinpricks of the pouncing technique that was used to transfer this image to another page can be seen clearly around the head and torso of the man on the right. Unfinished paintings like Maharaja Surat Singh of Bikaner at a window show how an initial sketch on carefully burnished and seized paper was slowly transformed into a finished work. In this painting, we see how, once the architectural framing and composition was set up, the Maharaja and his attendants were the first elements to be completely painted. The details of the architecture were filled in around the main figures, but remain unfinished. The pink background and the incomplete right side of the architrave make the unfinished nature of this painting clear, while the stippling in the small circle in the upper right-hand corner gives us an idea of what the artist might have been planning. The artist's use of the page itself for sketching and planning can be seen in the unfinished portrait of a Mughal courtier from Colby's collection. Here, the man's face and turban have been completed, while the rest of his body remains only an outline. A small swatch of color in the lower right-hand corner seems to show the artist searching for the right colors for the figure's skin. A closer look at the page itself finds the faint outline of a second male head, suggesting that this figure of a courtier may not have been the first attempt at painting on this page. Welch's interest in technique didn't end with sketches and unfinished works. A small set of pigment-filled shells and 2 oblong agates that would have been used for burnishing paper also give us a small window into the artist's workshop. Even today, painters trained in the art of Persian miniature painting mix and store their paints in small shells that are easily held in the hand. These pigments, which are made from organic and inorganic materials, are the key to the vibrant colors found in Persian painting.